This is the legacy of humanity.
Hello and welcome back to another build video. Today we're gonna check out my Blood Mage Bleed build, and this build is so much fun to play, really satisfying and strong. So let's get into it. So first off we have the Atziri Pronged Spear. This is one of the new unique items that was added in this league, and it drops from the Atziri boss fight in the temple. And at the first glance, this is nothing special. You have kind of low physical damage, you have fire and lightning. This one is corrupted for some added cold damage. And you get some attack speed, presence area of effect. But then you have spear skills inflict a bloodstone lance on hit, up to a maximum of 30 on each target. And when we read on the Shattering Spite here, we're gonna see what the bloodstone lances actually do. So the Shattering Spite converts 40% of physical and converts that to lightning and fire damage. You also have a total attack time, and the skill itself cannot inflict bloodstone lances, so you need to use a different skill to inflict them. And what Shattering Spite do is that you basically explode the bloodstone lances. And you also have that Life Leech recovers based on elemental damage as well as physical damage. Pretty nice. Explosion radius is 1.5 meters, and this is the big one. Explosions deal 20% more damage per bloodstone lance. You also have a bigger explosion radius or bigger AoE on the explosion if you have at least 5 bloodstone lances. You get 10% of the leech as physical damage as life from the explosion with at least 10 bloodstone lances. And if you have 15 bloodstone lances, the life leech is instant. So what does all this mean? Well, the more bloodstone lances we inflict on a target, the better benefits or better bonuses we're gonna get from actually exploding them with the Shattering Spite. So preferably at least on bosses, you want to make sure that you have 30 at the max stack of bloodstone lances before you use your Shattering Spite. And that is because of this line right here. So we get 20% more damage per bloodstone lance. So that is 20% more times 30. It's a huge damage bonus. And then obviously the different effects that we get as well, but those are kind of non-existent. Like the main thing with the weapon itself is the explosions. So let's get into the support gems. So first off we have Life Remnants, and this is from the Blood Mage Ascendancy. So we have a 25% chance to spawn a remnant when we kill an enemy, and the remnant itself grants us life. And in here we use harmonic remnants, so we have a chance to create an additional remnant. We also use remnant potency, and this is so we have a chance to get increased effect of the remnant, and this is a 40% increase. So pretty good ones. And then we have Shattering Spite. And you can build the Shattering Spite Spear in many different ways, but we have decided to focus on Bleed in this one. So we use Bleed 3 here, so we have a 100% chance to inflict bleeding. We use Deep Cuts 2, and this gives us 100% more magnitude of bleeding. We do get 30% less damage with hits, but that is kinda okay for the trade-off of getting 100% more magnitude. We also use Elemental Armament 2, so we get 25% more elemental attack damage, because the big damage that we have on the weapon is elemental and not physical. And since we are Blood Mage, I'm gonna get into that when we get to the Ascendancy, but we basically get Bleed Magnitude from elemental damage. So Elemental Armament 2. We also use Rage Forge 2, and this have 35% more damage if we spend 10 Rage. And we also have a 30% chance to gain the benefits of doing that, but not spend the rage. We also use Rakiata's Flow, and I mentioned it before, and I'm gonna mention it again. In this league, it's actually pretty expensive. So if you don't have Rakiata's Flow, there will be options for you that I will get into. But we are using Rakiata's Flow. And another thing I want to mention with the weapon itself is that we have decided to go for a level 20 Shattering Spite because we want to run Rakatas Flow. But level 20 Shattering Spite is pretty expensive compared to a level 19. So depending on your budget, a level 19 is totally fine. We will still be able to do insane amount of damage and have insane clear speed. So it's more of a min-max thing. It's not mandatory to have a level 20. And then we have Purity of Fire. And how do we get that? Well, we use Sacred Flame. So Purity of Fire, we use Cannibalism 2, so we have 3% maximum life recovered on kill. We use Vitality 2, so we regenerate 2% of our max life. We use Cool-Headed, so we have 50% less ignite duration. And also Strong-Hearted, so we have 50% less shock duration. And all of these are actually free. We don't really know if there is a bug with the Purity Scepters, but whatever Purity Scepter you use, all of the spirit cost support gems you put in are actually free. So you don't have to keep this in mind when you try to fit in your other spirit gems, because all of them are gonna be no cost. And then our main skill for setting up the Shattering Spite is Spearfield. So Spearfield creates spears that stay in the ground until they get triggered. And when they get triggered, they cause an explosion. You can have a maximum of 70 spears active at a time. And then the explosion itself, it's maiming on hit. And that is basically it. So reason why we use Spearfield is because it has pretty good AoE, as you can see here. So it's really nice for mapping. So at the start of the Spearfield, you have a lot tighter clump of spears created, and at the end they are a lot more spread out, which means that whenever we use this on a boss, we will be able to, if we stand close enough, get our 30 stacks of Bloodstone lances faster. And for Spearfield we use Bleed 3 here, so 100% chance to inflict bleeding. We use Rage 3, and this is how we get the Rage to spend Rage Forge. So we get 5 Rage on melee hit, and we also have increased attack speed while we are not at maximum Rage. We use Rapid Attacks 2, so we can attack faster. Elemental Armament 2, more elemental attack damage. And we use Rigwald's Ferocity here for some even more increased attack speed. And this is also kind of an expensive lineage support, and you don't need this. If you don't have it, and don't buy it, then I would recommend to use Magnified Area 2, so you get even bigger AoE on the Spearfield. But Rigwald's Ferocity is nice. Attack speed is pretty nice in general, and the faster attack speed we have, the faster we will apply maximum amount of Bloodstone Lances on our boss. And then we have Herald of Blood, and this is a spirit gem. So we basically killing an enemy with blood loss will cause a blood explosion that is physical damage to surrounded enemies. And when we use this, we have Blood 3 to be able to inflict bleeding. But we also run a pretty interesting setup here with Poison. So we use Poison 3, so we have 60% chance to poison on hit. And we also have 20% more magnitude of poison inflicted by supported skill against bleeding enemies. So they go pretty good hand in hand. We use Deadly Poison here, so we have 100% more magnitude of poison. We use Bursting Plague, and when we poison an enemy, you can trigger this Bursting Plague. And what does it do? Well, it deals physical damage. And what does physical damage do? It can trigger bleeding. And the reason we use this at all is because we can chain the Herald effect. So Herald of Blood triggers, which means that we poison, which means that we trigger Bursting Plague, which means that we trigger a physical damage, which means that that physical damage will apply bleeding. So it's going to be like a chaining effect of poison and bleeding. Very, very good for map clearing or AoE. We also have Admixture, and this is to give us 20% more magnitude of bleeding against poisoned enemies, and 20% magnitude of poison against bleeding enemies. And then we have Blasphemy. And Blasphemy is a spirit gem that we can socket curses into. So we have socketed temporal chains here, and it's not mandatory, I would say, but it feels really good during mapping to basically slow everything to the point where they are almost not even attacking you. So we use heightened curse here, so we have increased the magnitude of the curse, which increases the slow. We use ritualistic curse to give it bigger AoE. We use magnified area 2 for even bigger AoE. And then we use slow potency, so we have 15% increased slow magnitude. And I also have Blood Hunt here. To be completely honest, I never use it, but it's optional to do, and it feels pretty good when you use it, but I prefer to actually see the bleed, just draining the whole life bar of a boss until the boss is dead. But what you can do with what you can do with Blood Hunt is that you can basically, depending on how much blood loss an enemy have, you can then do damage with Blood Hunt to trigger an explosion, and you can basically kill the boss faster as long as you do the Blood Hunt like at the end of the life bar of the boss. So in here we use rapid attacks too, so we can attack faster. Concentrated area, so we have more area damage because this is an AoE skill. We use Culling Strike here, and this is so we can like basically insta-kill a rare or unique enemy, which is a boss, as long as they are below like a certain threshold. Physical Mastery, so we get to another level. And we use Momentum, so when we travel 2 meters during this skill, we deal 40% more damage. Because Blood Hunt is not like a travel skill per se, because if we use it here, you see that we don't actually move. But if the boss, as an example, has blood loss on it, and we stand far away and use it, we will actually dash to the target. And then we have Bloodhound's Mark, and this is a mark, obviously. We can use this mark, and the boss or whatever we use this on, when they suffer blood loss, they get heavy stun. So we do a lot of blood loss, which will cause a heavy stun. But to be honest, I don't see this happening that often. The main reason why we use this is because of Charged Mark. So whenever we mark the target and it suffers blood loss, it will trigger Bloodhound's Mark, which will trigger Charged Mark, which makes shocked ground below the boss. And that is applying shock instantly. We do have a lot of lightning damage in the build, so we are actually applying shock consistently, but this is a way to kind of like guarantee it, especially on bosses. We have Marked for Death, so enemies marked by supported skills have armor broken equal to 10% of physical damage taken, along with Uruk's Melting. So this makes us break the armor of the boss, which is gonna result in them taking more damage from the bleed. And we have Physical Mastery here once again for an extra level. And then we have the last 3 skills here, which are Spirit Gems. So for regular mapping, I use Wolfpack and Herald of Thunder. And then for bosses, I deactivate them and use Trinity. So the reason for Wolfpack during mapping is that we use Loyalty, which means that 10% of the damage we would have taken goes to the companion instead, which is our wolves. And Brutus Brain makes our minions not be able to take damage and cannot deal damage. But Loyalty still works with this, so this is basically a 10% damage reduction at any point when you are having the Wolfpack activated. Because the build itself we are surviving really well, but we don't have good defenses. So having this feels pretty good in regards to that. And then Herald of Thunder. Since I mentioned earlier we have a lot of lightning damage, we can proc Herald of Thunder pretty consistently. And I think everybody knows what Herald of Thunder does by now, but whenever we kill a shocked enemy, we grant or we get Herald stacks, and whenever we then attack, we can trigger a Herald of Thunder. So in here we use Elemental Focus for 25% more LA damage, concentrated area for 30% more area damage. And then main. The last two here I haven't really bothered with. You can slot in whatever you want to here, doesn't really matter. But yeah, Hurl of Thunder is pretty nice. It helps a little bit with clearing, but mostly because it looks really cool. So last one here is Trinity. And Trinity gives us 7% more elemental damage per resonance of any type. And it's very rare, to be honest, that I see any resonance except for fire, because majority of the damage, even though we do a lot of lightning, we do way more fire. So we at least have 1 bar of the fire resonance up pretty much all the time. And that is enough to give us a pretty big damage increase from Trinity. So mapping, Wolfpack, Herald of Thunder, bosses, Trinity. And you can play around with these if you want to as well. Like if you feel like you can do fine without Herald of Thunder and Wolfpack, you can run Trinity all the time. Or if you feel like you do fine without Trinity on bosses, you can run Herald of Thunder and Wolfpack all the time. Because I know that some players don't really like to switch out like gems or skills and stuff like that. But yeah, play around with it, see what fits you the best. And then for the gear, already been talking about Atziri's spear, so we're not gonna go into that much more. The main things I want to mention is that you want as high damage as possible. And if you are a blood mage, which you kinda should be if you want to go bleed for this build because of that ascendancy, you want to have high elemental damage. And level 19 works completely fine, but level 20 Shattering Spite is the preferred one. And for the helmet, we use Constricting Command, and this makes us require 5 fewer enemies to be surrounded. And why do we want to be surrounded? Well, we have a lot of good stuff in the passive tree that applies to this, that I will get into very soon. So the most important thing for this helmet would be to have at least require 4 fewer. 5, like, not a big difference, but you don't want less than 4. If you can find like higher max life and higher attributes, that would be nice as well. But most importantly, don't buy like I did here. It's corrupted, without socket, and without quality. So try to pay attention to that. We use Sacred Flame. And why do we use this? There are 2 reasons. 3 reasons actually. First reason is that it gives us 62% of damage as extra fire. That is a big damage increase. Second of all, we get the spirit, so we can actually fit in more spirit gems. And then third would be that all the spirit gems you socket into the Purity of Fire is free. So it's a pretty big item for this build. There are other items that you can get, like the Chernobog Shield as an example, if you want to go a little bit more defensive. Problem with that is that you're gonna have a lot less spirit, which might require you to get spirit on your body armor, as an example. But I think Sacred Flame works really well with this build. And if you play in groups, you also bring some damage to your friends, because allies in your presence gain 28 damage of as extra fire. And that is the reason why I have slotted in a presence area of effect in here. Because whenever I do play with friends, it's pretty nice to give them some damage bonuses. So we don't have to be as close to each other as we would have been without having the presence area of effect in here. For the necklace, we are using a Fire Flower. And why do we use a Fire Flower? It is so we get +4 to levels of fire skills. If we look at Shattering Spite, it has the lightning, but also the fire tag. So that is the main reason why we use Fire Flower, because Shattering Spite itself is not a melee skill, and it's not a spell, and you can't get attack skills on your amulet. And the thing you can do with this one as well is that you can actually corrupt this to +5 or even +6 if you're lucky. I've been trying a few times, not been lucky on that one, so we just settled for a +4 here. And the thing you want to instill is Lasting Trauma. Lasting Trauma gives us 30% increased magnitude of ailments you inflict, and we do inflict poison, we do inflict bleed, and shock. So all of those 3 are gonna get the benefit of this one. We also get increased duration of damaging ailments, which is bleed and poison, but that's not the main reason for lasting trauma specifically. And for the body armor, here you want to fit in resistances, max life, and as high energy shield as you can get. The energy shield is obviously nice because energy shield is a good defensive tool, but since we are Blood Mage, energy shield also gives us life. So as you can see, we sit at almost 2.8k life. And whenever we pick up the life remnants from the Ascendancy, we can also overcap our life. So we get like around 4,000 life, something like that. But yeah, most importantly would be life, resistances, energy shield on your body armor. And if you don't run the Sacred Flame, Spirit is going to be nice there. And for the rings, we use as much elemental damage as we can get, while also make sure that we cap our resistances. Rarity on here would be nice, but you can't wish for everything. But yeah, as high elemental damage as possible and cap your resistances. That's the goal. And then we have a Calandra's Touch, so we basically mirror this ring. If you don't have a Calandra's Touch, you obviously want something similar to your other ring. For the glove, you want to look out for two things here. So first of all, you want as much flat damage as you can get. And you also want the increased effect of socketed items. And why do we want that? We are socketed in Wolf Idol, and this gives us 10 increased magnitude of bleeding. And we have 2, since this is it's an exceptional glove, so you have 2 sockets. So that gives us 32% increased magnitude of bleeding. For the boots, movement speed, rarity, resistances, and energy shield. For the belt, you want to look out for a Darkness Enthroned, which is giving you bonuses as though it was gloves. And you also want to have as close to 100 or Corruption with over 100 as you can get. And in here, you want to slot in a Rune of Cruelty for 20% increased magnitude of damaging ailments. And also a Wolf Idol for 10% increased magnitude of bleeding. And since this is 109% increased effect, we get 20 and 41. For the charms, you can go with whatever fits you. Nothing here is mandatory. Personally, I use a stun charm and a freeze charm. And then for the flasks, like Life Flask, go with as much life you can get on as low amount of time as you can get. And then for the Mana Flask, this is kind of important for the build. So we use Labianga's Spirits. And this Mana Flask make us not able to actually manually use the Mana Flask, because the effect is applied all the time. So, as you can see here, whenever we start to spend mana, we regen mana. But we cannot use the flask itself manually. And there are reasons we want to do that, because of some passive nodes that we will get into now. So for the passive tree, first off we are Blood Mage. First point here gives us the life remnants, which is the small life balls that we can pick up, or blood balls. Then we go in here, so we have a chance to inflict bleeding on critical hits. We don't really do any critical hits, so that doesn't matter. But the big one here is blood barbs. So bleeding we inflict on cursed targets is aggravated. Aggravated bleeding means that it counts as the target were moving, which is giving us 100% extra damage. So basically double damage. And we do curse all the time because we have temporal chains in our Blastery. And then we have the big one here. Elemental damage also contributes to bleeding magnitude. So that is like the main thing why we pick Blood Mage in the first place. We also go for curse effect here, so increase curse magnitude. We go for Whisper of the Flesh, and this is like kinda non-existent, I would say. Curse targets have 100% reduced life regen, and curse targets have at least 15% of life reserved. So when we go into a boss fight, you're gonna see that as soon as you basically curse them, they're gonna have less health bar. We go here, max life, we go down here, so 25% of life loss from hits is prevented. and that much life is lost over 4 seconds instead. So very good defensive-wise. More max life, and then we go down to Crimson Power. So we gain additional max life equal to 100% of our item energy shield on the body armor. That is why you want to have high energy shield on your body armor, so you get more life from that. And the pathing is a little bit interesting, but it is what it is. We go up here, down to Flow Like Water, so we get increased attack speed, and we also get some attributes. We need a lot of attributes on the build, so that is going to be a like repeating thing here. We go up here for Chance to Shock, get 5% increased lightning. Go up here, grab some attack damage and chance to Daze on hit. Go up here for some increased AoE and attack damage, and also another chance to Daze on hit. We go down here for some attack speed and attribute. Go down here, we grab some attack damage. We go in here, so we grab some more attack damage. But here, Imbibed Power, and this is the reason why we are using the Lavianga Flask. So we get 6% increased attack speed and 25% increased damage during the flask effect, which is all the time. So that node is pretty good. We path off to the left here, chance to inflict ailments, don't bother, but we want Vile Wounds. So we get 33% increased damage with hits against enemies affected by ailments. And we do ailments all the time, so nice damage increase. Go down here, grab the Jewel Socket, down here for some more attack damage, and maim on hit. We path down here, so we get some more elemental damage, and also 5% of physical damage from hits is taken as a random element, so a little bit defense. Then we go up here, and these are pretty good nodes, so we get increased magnitude of ailments, which is going to be the poison, which is going to be the bleed, and the shock. And we also have damaging ailments deal damage faster. So our poison, which is only for triggering the Herald chaining effect during mapping, but more importantly the actual bleed is going to be dealing damage faster. Here are some smaller magnitude nodes and duration, and here is increased damage with hits against enemies affected by ailments, once again. We go down here and path to the left for increased elemental damage. And here is another good one, Crystal Elixir. So we get 40% increased elemental damage with attacks during any flask effect, which we once again have all the time. Go down here for the Jewel Socket, then we go up here for some magnitude of damaging ailments. Then we continue to the left, we go down here, and the reason for this is that we need a lot of attributes on the build. And if you have, like, let's say, attributes on your ring as an example, you might be able to move some of these points around. But personally I don't, so I need to grab these. So what they do is that we get attributes, and then we get equipment and skill gems have reduced attribute requirements. And then we grab Jack of all trades, so we get 2% increased damage per 5 of our lowest attribute. And we go up here, grab the Jewel Socket, we path to the left here, and these are the surrounding nodes. So the reason why we use Constricting Command is because of these nodes. So we get big increased attack or increased attack damage, we get increased attack speed. Here we go down for some magnitude of bleeding, and bleeding we inflict the deal damage 10% faster. To the left, down here, for some even more attack damage while surrounded. And then all the way over here for our Jewel Sockets. And then obviously up here for the more surrounded nodes. This one is not mandatory, but it feels pretty good. So we get longer dodge roll distance, and we also get movement speed. And then obviously the big ones is attack damage while surrounded. So that is pretty much it for the passive tree. We also need to take a look at the jewels. So first up we have a From Nothing Diamond, and this one gives us passive in radius of Dance of Death can be allocated without being connected to the tree. And Dance of Death is the node down here, which makes us able to grab acceleration, movement speed and skill speed. we grab Precise Point, so we have increased damage with spears. We grab Roll and Strike, so we have increased damage with spears and attack speed. And we grab Focused Thrust, so we have increased melee damage with spears while surrounded. And this is melee damage. This is not actually affecting the Shattering Spite, but it does affect our spear field. So pretty good jewel to get. You also save a lot of points instead of having to travel down here and path up here. You save basically all of those and the smaller ones over here. And for the regular jewels, you want something similar to this. You want increased magnitude of ailments, and you can go with damaging ailments as well, but I would recommend to go for just ailments, because that includes shock as well. Damaging ailments deal damage faster is pretty nice. So those two, if you can get that, that would be nice. The other two is totally optional and not mandatory. Go with whatever you think would be good for you. Down here we have increased attack damage, increased magnitude of ailments once again. So those two are going to be the ones you are looking for, or those three I would say. But the thing with the green emerald jewels is that you can't roll the damage ailments deal damage faster, I believe. So it doesn't really matter. Whatever you find that is similar to these is going to be good for you. Up here, once again increased attack damage and increased magnitude of ailments. And over here we have a Heart of the Well. Here you want to look out for as much gain as you can get. Attack speed, skill speed is pretty good. You can also have damage faster, or ailments deal damage faster on a Heart of the Well. But mainly you want as many and as high gain as you can get for big damage increase. So that is basically it for the build for today. And if you have any questions, let me know down below in the comment section. We are gonna still try to min-max the build a little bit more, see if we can find something major to do with it. If I do, I will do an updated version of the build. But I'm at the point where I feel like it is performing very well, as you will see or have seen in the boss showcase and also the mapping showcase that will be in the end of the video. So yeah, until next time, take care, thanks for watching, and see you around.